So what y'all gotta understand is you're talking about 1995, 1996. And at that time, neo-soul wasn't really a thing. The only artist that had these type of records that was paying homage to, say, what was going on in the 70s at that time was D'Angelo, and that's why we consider D'Angelo, like the godfather, of that sound. He started to put that frequency out, and that frequency started to change the mindset of modern day R&B to starting to pay homage to older sounds. And so at that time in 95, he was the only one who had like Brown Sugar, and his album then came out the following year. And then Erykah Badu, I call her like the queen. Jill ended up coming out in 99, and she actually expounded on a lot of the sounds that we were doing, same producers at A Touch of Jazz. But Erykah dropped in December of 96. So, and her sound started to really pay homage to a sound that I hadn't heard for a while at the time, which was like a Billie Holiday vibe, an old homage type sound of a yesteryear, but with an updated hip hop feel. It was just dope. And she started to open a frequency up for us as artists. And at the time, before I got to A Touch of Jazz, I was, like the New Editions and everybody that was out now. We had Tony, Mint Condition. These artists were doing live instrumentation, but it was more of a modern day R&B instrumentation. And even D'Angelo was like reminiscent of Prince and that type of vibe. And that was dope because Prince actually was, 70s, but he was more 80s. So that started to kind of, like I said, like change the frequency of how we were thinking about doing songs and what was applicable for the masses and what people wanted to hear. And so I was doing my thing in 95, 96, simultaneously with some of the pioneers of the game. And so I was slated to come out in April of 97, but the records were pretty much done, I would say, summer of 96. So, this sound would progress and become in the next 3 to 4 years a mainstream. Jill was being played mainstream radio during the daytime. These records that kind of was reminiscent of back in the day, like the Frankie Beverly types, and that was great to hear because we thought that for a minute there with the, Mariah Carey's, Whitney Houston's, and all of that, and more of the pop R&B, that wasn't going to ever be pliable to be played modern. Maybe Quiet Storm, you'll hear like an oldie or a slow song or something, but for Long Walk, Is It the Way, Next Lifetime, Erykah Badu songs to be played at 1 p.m. in the daytime and things of this nature was like unheard of. And it was beautiful because these were new artists, and it was like, yeah, this was breaking through. And it ended up being a whole genre that we still love today, which is, we're paying homage to, our senseis in the game. But at the same time, we doing our own thing. So, I was pretty much trying to pay homage to my senseis, which was Marvin Gaye, Stevie Wonder, Sam Cooke, whatever, like, the cats from the 70s that I loved at the time, Michael Jackson, of course. So my best way, I was trying to, cultivate those sounds. And I think we nailed a couple of them, And like, so what I'm saying is when you listen to these records, remember, this is 30 years ago. These were at that time, where you didn't have, Lauryn Hill had not came out yet, Jill had not came out, you know, all the 2000s and the early 2000s of the neo soul that a lot of us know. This is 4 or 5 years earlier, so that's why these records, it's like any of them still slap. It's kind of crazy. When I listened to it again, I was like, wow, you know, but if you enjoy it, but you know, you got to put yourself in a mind frame of back then. If these joints would have came out, maybe they could have popped off, you know. So I hope you enjoy it. You know, this is the 8th song off the Time Capsule collection. Enjoy.
You're so mesmerizing and so hypnotizing. You're the girl that I adore, and I'd be a fool to ever want more. You're so fascinating, mentally stimulating. How could my world be at peace if I were to ever let you leave? You're like the air to me. Without you I could hardly breathe. You're like the light that shines through my window, or the falling snow that I love so. You're like harmony, blessed with melody. It's that piece of you that you give to me that makes my whole